Hey everybody, Big Toad here. Welcome to video 9 in our series on developing 2D game in Unreal Engine 5. In our last video, we implemented the run flipbook to our character, and it works really great until you go the other direction and he's still facing the wrong way. So in this video, we're going to create in our blueprint the mechanisms to turn that sprite so he's always looking the right direction when we move. And we build this once and it should work for all of our sprites. So when we put in jump or fall, or we put in shoot or kick or whatever other actions we might have, it'll work on those too. So let's jump into our character blueprint and start making some changes. We've been doing most of our work in this update animation, a routine that we created. We have this section where we check to see if the character is moving or not, based on vector length and such, and we set this variable. And then over here we actually select the flipbook and set that flipbook into our character. Now we need to add to the back end of this to make sure it's facing the correct direction. So let's right click and open our menu, and let's find us a compare float action. There it is. We'll select that and add it to our blueprint. Now let's attach that to our set flipbook. So this compare float node, it has an input, and we're going to compare it with 0. And if it's greater than 0, we'll do one action, and if it's less than 0, we'll do another. And so that's what that compare float does. It compares the float coming in with either a number or another float you're providing it. And in this case, we're going to compare it with 0. Now we're going to add a new variable down to our player movement. We're going to click on that and press plus variable. And now we're variable. We're going to name this one facing left question mark. And that's the question we're going to ask when we check the compare float, facing left, yes or no. And this will be a Boolean, of course, because it'll be either a yes, no, a check, or a not check, positive or negative. And just drag that up under player movement, and it gets assigned to that category. Now drag that new variable over and drop it and get the set, because we're going to set that variable. Then we will Control D to get a duplicate of that set node for facing left. Then we will attach the greater than to the top one and the lesser than to the bottom one. We will not be attaching to the equals, because if it's equal, we want to just leave it where it's at. So if it comes across equal and it was facing left true, then we just want to leave it true. If it ends up equal and it was facing left false, then we want to leave it as false. So no changes for that one, so we'll leave it blank. We'll leave it unconnected. Now let's finish the compare float by getting our input. So we're going to open our menu and let's search for get actor rotation. Get actor rotation. And we will select that and bring it into our blueprint. Let's open our menu again and let's search for unrotate vector. And there we have it. So let's bring that into our blueprint. Now we can connect the return value out of our get actor rotation to the bottom blue node on unrotate vector. Now we only need one of the XYZ out of our unrotate vector. So we can go in and we can split the structure pins. And we're only going to use the Y that comes out of there, because that's all we're checking. Is it rotate, which way is it facing on the Y axis, left or right? So let's drag the Y axis out and put that into the input on our compare float. And again, we're only going to compare that to 0, so we don't need to make any changes there or attach anything there. So what we need to do now is get the input into our unrotate vector that goes into that A node. Now this is one of those items in Unreal Engine you just don't search in the menu and pop up. We have to get that input for A little differently. And because of that, You might forget this, so pay attention and take note. Over in our right panel, at the bottom of our character information, we have character movement, and we're just going to drag that in, character movement, and we're going to drag that and drop it, and that's going to get this character movement node, and we're going to search off of that to get our next node. So search on velocity, and then you have to scroll all the way to the bottom and select get velocity. And that will then connect right to our unrotate vector, and it'll be our comparison. So this finishes all the nodes we need to feed into our compare float, and these accomplish the task of determining with the compare float which direction our character is facing, so we can set the flipbook to face the proper direction. I'm going to organize my blueprint. That nice and tidy. I think I'll come back here and I'll put a comment box around this. Create comment box, and we'll be titling that sets animation state, and we'll get that organized and cleaned up. I like to put in comment box so I can remember what each part does and helps keep things organized. Now let's pull out from this set and open our box, and we'll search for a branch. And both of our sets facing left will feed into that branch. One of them will set it positive, one of them will set it negative, and that depends on our rotation. Next, let's get a facing left, and we'll plug that in there. That'll be that will be set by one of those two sets, and so it'll be accurate at that point. Now after the branch, we're going to need two nodes, both of them the same. So let's pull out from true, and we'll search for set relative rotation, and that'll be a flipbook, set relative rotation flipbook. So we'll pull that in, and you can see it's already got flipbook attached. Okay, so let's pull that down. Now we can do a Control D and get another one of these sets relative rotation. We'll bring it down here, and the false will go into that one. So then we'll connect the paper flipbook to both. Now that's all the parts and pieces we need to calculate this. We just need to set the z-axis to the appropriate value, either positive or negative. And if you followed me exactly, it will be the same as what I put in here. It will be minus 90 on the top set relative rotation and 90 on the bottom set relative rotation. Now we do have to set which of our sets is positive or negative. Top facing left will be unchecked, meaning it is facing right. The bottom one will be checked, meaning it is facing left. So if you find out when you get in the game that your character is not running right or it's not rotated properly, you may have to come in here and change these rotation amounts in the set relative rotation to be 180 degrees opposite of each other. That's always the key. And but you should, if you followed me exactly, this is the numbers you should be using if you're using Unreal Engine 5. Now with that done and organized, let's go ahead and put a comment box around that. And let's put some descriptive words in there. Checks movement direction, sets facing left variable, rotates flipbook for direction. That's kind of the three steps we take. We check the movement direction, we set that variable for left or right or not, and then we rotate the flipbook for the proper direction. That should complete that. So now let's compile and run this game. I'll minimize my blueprint page. Now let's test this guy and see if he's still working properly and running the right way. He's running that way, and now, oh, look at him, he's running the right way now. Perfect, running back and forth. So we fixed it so he's running. Now what we don't do now is when we jump, we just keep right on running. But that's for the next video. We'll fix that. We'll put in some of we'll use the fall jump flipbook we created and fix that. But now we have him running the right way, and I think he looks pretty impressive there. If yours is doing the complete opposite of mine, then you go back and change those set facing left so that one's the top one's checked and the bottom one's not checked. And if he's not quite rotated properly, you may have to go into set relative rotation and make adjustments there. Like I said, they should be 180 degrees apart. So mine are set on the top one -90, on the bottom one 90, and you may have to mess with those a little bit if you didn't, if you're out of sync with me. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got yours working properly. And till the next one, when we implement the jump and the fall. Hey, this is the Big Toad, and I am out.